everyone, Jason Cole here with RC Groups. We're doing an overview video of the DJI Assistant software for the A2 flight controller. And I've got everything already connected up and plugged in and pulled up the software here, and this is the first screen you're going to see. This is the kind of view, this is an overview of most of the important settings and that you have. So we've got the IMU, orientation, you can get a quick glance at what you have set up there. The aircraft type, receiver type, most of your data here is great to see. Any of these hyperlinked ones, or you can go directly in if you wanted to change that. You could take you right into the section of the software where you can make that adjustment. But the first thing I suggest you really do is go ahead and click this button right here. This is for the channel mapping section. So you can see your basic channels here: aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, and U, which is your flight mode. And go ahead and do a calibration and move all your sticks around and switches and get everything talking there. I've already done that. And you can go ahead and move the sticks. And you want to go ahead and verify for each channel that everything moves in the correct direction and is centered when it's supposed to be. So aileron, it's centered. When I push right aileron, the little bar moves to the right. Elevator, when I pull back elevator, it goes left. When I push forward, it goes right. Throttle at the low stick, it should be way down here, and increase to the right as you go up. And rudder, when you go right rudder, it should move to the right. And then U is going to be your flight mode switch. We'll get into that later, but you can move that. You can go ahead and use the map button if you need to make any changes. If the sticks are moving for a different function, you can go ahead and set all that up there really easily. And you can also map other channels and functions to switches. I have a pan tilt camera hooked up for the pilot's FPV system on channel 7 and 8. So it makes it really easy to map your channels and get everything working like you need it to. We'll go ahead and dive into the adjustments here. So under the basic tab, we've got some tabs underneath, and it's just a great graphical interface. So you can pick the type of quadcopter you have, or hex or Y or whatever you got. So I'm got the S800 Evo here, so I've got the hex rotor V assigned to it, and you've got a really cool function here called motor test. Obviously you're going to have your props off when you're hooking it to the software. It's just a good idea. But motor test, definitely make sure your props are off, but you can hit this and watch your motor spin, and it's a good idea just to verify that hey, motor 1 is that motor on your copter and it is spinning in the correct direction. So it's a great way to test all those before you try to go out and do a test flight. So really handy. And the mixer type, you also have an advanced section where you can do a custom mix. You'll want to go into the manual for the Wukong flight board for more information on that. You've got a mounting tab here, so you can select the orientation that your IMU direction is based on the nose of the aircraft. So I've got mine just facing forward. And you also have to tell the software where the IMU and GPS is in relation to the CG or center of your aircraft. This can be a little confusing, but once you kind of understand it, it's pretty simple. If this little dot is the center of your aircraft, or the CG, on the x-axis, if your IMU or GPS is in front of that line, or that point, then you're going to be giving a positive number. Red line equals positive. If it's behind that line, behind the center, it's going to be a green line. It's a negative number. For the y-axis, if it's basically left of center, you're going to give a negative. If it's right of center, you're going to input a positive number. And z-axis is a vertical axis, up and down. If it's below the center, it's going to be a positive number, and above it's negative. So pretty simple. Just once you get the hang of that diagram, you can use a measuring stick and get the measurements of where your IMU and GPS is located. The RC tab is where you can select your receiver type, and you've got your control mode switch here, so you can use your endpoint adjustments and center adjustments for whatever channel you have plugged in and connected to this U or control mode switch, and just make sure that when you're in each mode that the highlight's in blue, so you can, you know, be able to tell that it's in that mode. And you should see it change down here at the bottom as well. So the mode, I'm in manual ADDI and GPS ADDI, so that's a secondary indication of the mode that you're in. But you just want to make sure those line up. You can adjust your gains. So the default gains are usually pretty good for most aircraft. I've got my basic gain set for 180 for the Evo. It's kind of where I like it. It's more of a preference thing. So you guys can change that as you need. They do have an advanced option. I don't really mess with this much. They basically say you don't really need to mess with it, but if you're an advanced user and you want to make some adjustments here, then you have that option. It's nice that they included that. We'll go over to the advanced tab. We've got our motor idle speed. So this is where, depending on the motor battery prop combination on your copter, it may want a higher idle speed to be able to idle smoothly, or even lower if it's idling too high. The recommended setting is usually pretty good. On the failsafe screen here, this is where you can select the type of enhanced failsafe mode that you want. Hover, just going to hover in place till you kind of recover and get a signal back. Go home and land, this is where this diagram shows it's basically, if it's below 20 meters, it's going to climb to 20 meters and then come home and land. If it's above 20 meters, it's going to stay at that altitude, come home and land. And then you can, with the alt go home, you can select a altitude if it's below to go up to. It's great to avoid obstacles on the way home. And you can also assign a switch to be your, flight mode switch to, trigger failsafe directly. I don't really use that. I don't want to accidentally hit that while I'm flying, and I'm also have my switches basically all used up for other functions. You can also set the nose direction if it's going to face home when it comes back or faces away. That's just a preference thing, no big deal. The intelligent orientation control, this is where you can set point of interest, home lock, or course lock. You get to select which ones you want with the drop down box there, and you can just verify that when you move your switch to those positions that it highlights it in blue and triggers it. Gimbal, this is if you have a 2-axis servo driven gimbal. You can turn this on, set the frequency for the servo, set your minimum maximum endpoints in the center for the servo, the gain adjustments, and manual pitch control speed. Most people aren't really using this now with the brushless gimbals and Zen Mooses, but it's there if you need it. Under voltage protection, you can turn that on and tell it what battery you've got and set your first level protection warning. I've got it set to trigger an LED warning because I just want to be able to visually see it and know that I've hit this, and be able to come home and land under my control. You can also, if you feel more comfortable with it coming back and landing itself when it hits that voltage, you can select that option right there. The second level protection, you can make it just be an LED warning or warning with descending and landing. And it's basically going to, when it hits this voltage and you've got this selection set, it's basically going to come down pretty fast and right where it is. So you won't be able to fly it to a safer landing zone if you're over water or an obstacle you don't want to land on. So I've got this set pretty low, and when this first level hits, I'm usually heading back and coming on in and landing and getting to a safe zone. So it's nice to have that protection there. It can save your helicopter and give you good indications of your battery status if you don't utilize the IOSDs or any other ways to monitor your voltage while flying. Limits, this is great for us. I know especially some European countries have limitations on how high and how far away they can fly. You can turn these on if you want and set the range and altitudes that you want to use. And then we have our gear tab where you can turn on intelligent gear. I've got mine set to on because I don't want to accidentally hit the switch on the ground and have the gear train try to retract the gear and burn out the motor or something. And you can hit the gear switch and just verify that it's in the correct position for up and down that you want it to be. So that works great. The tool section here, you can see some of the sensor data. If I move the copter, you can kind of see that stuff move. So it's just great to get a live real-time output of your sensors. You can also export your parameters. So if you take the flight board off and put it on another copter, and then you want to put it back on the original, you can export out your parameters first, and then come back and import it when it's back on the new copter and all your settings are there. You can also go over to the info screen here, and this is going to tell you what software version you're on, and if you have any updates, it'll let you update from there. So that's pretty much it. That's the A2 assistant software for a computer. It's really great. I love the graphical interface. I love the user interface. It's probably one of the most simple interfaces I've seen for flight boards. They've done a really good job of keeping it up to date and user friendly. And it gets even better with the iOS app, the Bluetooth connectivity, so you can have your iPhone or iPad and connect to it with Bluetooth and be able to change parameters wirelessly and at the field, and even while you're flying. You can change the gain in the air in real time and be able to really tune it to your preferences quickly. Really nice for that. So that's the assistant software for the A2 flight control board.